Hi, this is Eric, and I like to fix things. Welcome back to the shop. Today I'm going to talk about 5 fixes that you can do to your toilet yourself and save calling a plumber. We're at the end of the holiday week. We've had guests at our house for the last 2 weeks, up to 10 people, and it is very common to have toilet problems when you have a bunch of guests over. And nothing's more exasperating than having to call a plumber and pay them $200, $300, $400 to come out and fix your toilet. I'll show you how to fix it for just a few dollars with common household tools. You'll need a pair of pliers and a crescent wrench to fix your toilet. So the first of the 5 fixes we're going to talk about is if water is running in your toilet. If it continues to run after you flush the toilet, if the water continues to run and doesn't stop, or sometimes late at night you'll hear the water run for some reason and it won't stop, or it stops, it'll start and stop and start and stop. I fixed one a while back that the person said that had been doing this for years, and it's a 5-minute fix. But first what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit about how a toilet works, okay? If you don't know anything about one, I'll talk to you. There's basically 3 main parts to a toilet. There is a supply line, which kind of looks like this. This is not a toilet one, but this is for a faucet that brings the water from a valve on the side of your wall. And that's what controls the water to the toilet. And it goes up to right here. There's right here, there's a connector for that supply line, and you may need a supply line. You may need some other parts. I'll show you what you need. But basically, there's a supply line, and it supplies water to the tank. This is the tank on the back. Sometimes the toilets have a one-piece toilet with the tank integrated. This one's a 2-piece toilet where they're bolted together. And then there's the bowl where the dirty stuff happens, I guess. And that's where the flushing happens. But basically, the tank stores up water inside, and then when you push this, it opens a valve, what they call a flapper valve, inside the tank. This flapper valve, this lever, pulls this chain, and this flapper valve opens up and dumps the water into the bowl, and it goes around the edge and runs down and really quickly goes through a series of pipes. It's a really unique design. It creates a vacuum or a suction, a siphon function, and sucks everything down the drain, which is in the middle, okay? So that's how your toilet works. Basically, a tank that holds the water ready to flush, and the bowl where all the stuff gets siphoned down the drain, okay? So the first thing you want to know if your toilet is running, and even if it's running continuously or if it runs, take the top off the bowl. Be careful with it because this is ceramic, and you can break. So put it off somewhere at the side in a safe place. Don't step on it. And if you look inside the toilet, there's this lever that is connected to the lever that you push, and it opens a flapper valve that's just like this one. It's attached to a chain right here, and it opens that flapper valve. If you need to change that flapper valve, it takes you 3 minutes. Basically, you can turn the water line off, the input line off. You can open the valve, drain the water into the tank. You can pull this flapper valve off. It has these little arms right here. You can pull it off. I'm taking this one off. This toilet, I actually replaced this toilet. It still works. You can pull this one off. This is an old one. And you can replace this flapper valve in just this much time, right here. So I'm going to put the flapper valve on the little arms. It just clips in. Now, one thing you might have to do is you might have to change the length of that chain. I actually got it caught around there, but it opens like that. You can reset the length of that chain, and you can make that new flapper valve. Sometimes these things get old and hard. They get some, yeah, I'll fix the chain. Pull this off. about just change the length of this chain by a couple inches. I want it about right here. I'll hook it up. And it's ready to use. Now sometimes if the toilet runs continuously after you flush it, sometimes that chain can actually get caught under the flapper valve, or something can get caught and the flapper valve stays open and the water just continues to run. Now, so the flapper valve is one piece that you might have to change. I actually buy them by the box of 3. I buy 3 of them at a time here. Fluid Master is a brand that sells them. I buy them in contractor packs. The other piece that you might need to change if water's running, there is this other piece right here is called the float valve. And this measures the amount of water in your toilet. Some of them are built like this, and they have basically a ball float. And the ball float, when the water comes in, it comes up to a height, and the ball float switches the water off right there. This is the old style, and you might need to change one of these. You can change one of these. It's pretty easy. This is the second thing that you might do if water's running. Here's a new one. This is the new style. It doesn't have the float sticking out on an arm. The float is actually integrated. I'll open this package up. The float is actually integrated into the valve. Now this is a little bit more complicated repair, but not much. Basically what happens is you take this valve and you unscrew, basically you have to have a little bowl of water. You take the supply line off. You turn the water off at the wall. You take the supply line off. You get a little bowl. You take this bolt right here underneath this bolt. That's why I've got a set of pliers. You take this bolt right here off, loose. Oops, that's tightening it. Loosen that bolt. There we go. Just loosen that bolt up. And when you do this, a little bit of water is going to spill out because you'll have a little bit of water in the tank right here. This is clean water. It's not dirty water. It's straight out of the tap, so it won't hurt you. If you spill a little bit on the floor, just wipe it up. You take this out. This is an old one, so this has got brass threads. The new one's got plastic threads. You take this one out. When you pull this thing loose, some water is going to spill out. This one's empty. You take this line out, and that whole thing comes out like that. You can replace the whole valve. This one comes with a little gasket here and a nut. Pull the gasket out. Put the gasket on here. You push this in like this. You make sure that it's set to a height. Now these things are adjustable. You can actually set them higher or lower. And you may have to mess with it a little bit to get your water right, because what happens is the water fills up and it shuts off. Fills up, it raises this little float and it shuts off. So there's a couple of adjustments. There's the length of the pipe adjustment, and then there's a little adjustment on this thing that will adjust it up and down. You can adjust it an inch or two with that, the water level. You put that in there. You tighten the nut. Here's a nut. This one's a plastic nut. It's very easy to tighten the nut on it. That'll seal this thing up. A lot of times you need to buy a new supply line because these flexible, a lot of times on older toilets they have hard supply lines and they don't necessarily fit right. So you buy a new supply line, you got to make sure you got the right ends on it, this end and this end. Your hardware store will have these. You put that in there. That's a brand new float valve inside your toilet. You have to actually add this little part right here. This is the part that actually fills the bowl as the water's coming out. So I'll show you how that works. It's got a little piece right here that clips onto the edge of this, this little, oh, actually this one's all corroded up. You might have to chip the corrosion off. But this little thing here clips on right here, and it throws water down that pipe. And so you got to take the tube, and you run the tube from here to here, and you fixed both the flapper and the float valve on your toilet. All right, so that'll fix both not flushing, water running, and not filling. Those are three problems that you might have with your toilet. Okay, I'm going to talk about two more that you might have. One is if you got a leak in your toilet, okay? Now, several reasons you could have a leak. One is you could have a leak in the supply line, at either the supply point or up here at this joint right here. You might have to tighten those. If you got a leak there, tighten those up. If you've got a leak, you might have a leak. This bolt right here might be loose. You might have a leak in these two little bolts. If you've got a two-piece toilet like this one, there is two little bolts with gaskets that hold the tank onto the base of the toilet. They're actually the bolts right here, and actually these are loose on this one. These actually hold the tank on, and this one didn't leak, but these have gaskets, and if those gaskets can be replaced, and those might actually leak. They're both loose on this toilet. This toilet worked, but they're both loose. So you can actually take those out, put new gasket in there, and there's actually a gasket between the tank and the thing. They actually sell those. I don't have one. It's rare for them to leak in that spot, but they do sometimes do that. The other place they can leak, and this is the messy part, is they can leak down underneath. If you've got water around the base of the toilet coming out, that's dirty water coming out of the base of the toilet. You're going to have to take the toilet off the drain and fix it, all right? You can do this. The toilets are kind of heavy. They're bolted right here in two bolts, one on each side, okay? And those bolts, this is a ceramic toilet, so those bolts are torqued a little bit tight, but not too tight. And you might get a little bit of rocking on the toilet if you've got a floor that's out of level or something like that, and that might develop a leak. And the reason there's a leak, and I'll show you this, and this might look a little ugly, but if you pull the toilet, if you tilt the toilet over, let me see if I can do this here. Underneath, you actually have to pull it straight off those bolts. You pull it up, and underneath there's a drain right here. This drain's dirty because it has had a gasket between the floor and the drain. The bolts actually go up and they pull the gasket tight. So the typical gasket is one like this. They're called a wax gasket. And they're made out of wax, sticky wax. Right here, see this sticky wax material. I don't like these, but they do seal. This one had a wax ring. And if you need to seal this, you put this on the drain, you set the toilet on there, you take the paper off, you set the toilet on there, you kind of spin it a little bit, you put the bolts on, and it will seal. These will seal your toilet. I like a modern product. The one I like, I have a couple of here. I have this one called a tight seal elastomer gasket. It's a little bit like a sticky little gasket. It's not beeswax, but I like this one. This one's called a Santa Seal, and it's fantastic. It's a foam. There's lots of copies of this. This is the best one of these. You actually put the bolts through here. You put this on your drain hole right here, put the bolts up, you set the toilet on. It actually holds the bolts in place. You can bolt it on, it seals your toilet up, and you'll get a tight seal even if you've got a little bit of rocking. If you've got a little bit of rocking on your toilet, you might take a little bit of shim stock. You can buy the plastic shim stock or some wood shim stock, and just shim the toilet up so it's not rocking. If you've got one of these underneath it, it will seal a leak down here. So that's 5 things that you might have that you need, that you can do a fix on your toilet, and you don't have to hire a plumber to do it. That last one's a little bit tricky, but an individual can do it. So thanks for watching.